and welcome to the City of Troy Planning Commission meeting on December 8th, 2020. Tonight's meeting is being conducted remotely using GoToMeeting remote meeting platform due to the COVID-19 pandemic. For those watching tonight's meeting on television or on the city's YouTube channel, we welcome you. Copies of the agenda for tonight's meeting are available on the city's website. The meeting will be conducted in accordance with the agenda as presented or amended by the Planning Commission. Our first item of business after roll call will be a proposed resolution temporarily suspending and modifying the Planning Commission bylaws and rules of procedure, which will permit us to proceed with this meeting virtually and to afford an opportunity for us to receive public comment. We have made every effort to ensure that the meeting adheres to the requirements of the Open Meetings Act. We have provided opportunities for public comment via telephone and email prior to the meeting. And all public comment, if any, will be shared with the Planning Commission. At this time, I'd like Kathy Sarnicki to conduct the roll call, please.
Mr. Apedian?
Here.
Ms. Cruz? Mr. Faison?
Here.
Thank you, Ms. Cruz. I got you. Mr. Faison?
Here.
Mr. Hudson?
Yes.
Mr. Krant?
Here.
Lambert?
Here.
Ms. Perakis? Mr. Rahman?
Here.
Mr. Tagle?
Here.
And we have a quorum. Next item is suspension of the Planning Commission bylaws. And I'll read the resolution and I'll ask for someone to second it. Whereas the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services MDHHS Director Robert Gordon issued an order on October 5th, 2020 under MCL 333.2253 restricting indoor gathering sizes to protect public health and safety, and whereas Public Act 228 of 2020 permits public meetings to be held by electronic means where an in-person meeting could detrimentally increase exposure to board members and the general public to COVID-19. Therefore, be it resolved that as allowed by Planning Commission Rules and Procedure Article 4, Section 6 of the Troy Planning Commission, hereby temporarily suspends the requirement of holding a meeting at the Troy City Hall and allows all Troy Planning Commission members to electronically participate in any Planning Commission meeting through December 31st, 2020. Members participating electronically will be considered present and in attendance at the meeting and may participate in the meeting as if physically present. However, members must avoid using email, texting, instant messaging, and other such electronic forms of communication to make a decision or deliberate toward a decision. Resolved as allowed by Planning Commission bylaws and rules of procedure, Article 10, the Troy Planning Commission hereby temporarily suspends and modifies the bylaws and rules of procedure concerning the order of the agenda as set forth in Article 5, Section 3, to consolidate the public comment sections of the meeting for any meeting held through December 31st, 2020. Resolved as allowed by the Planning Commission bylaws and rules of procedure, Article 10, the Troy Planning Commission hereby temporarily suspends and allows two methods of receiving public comment for virtual meetings. Public comments can be submitted for the Planning Commission meeting by sending an email to planning@troymi.gov. Emails received prior to 4:30 p.m. on the day preceding the Planning Commission meeting will be incorporated in the official record by attaching the emails to the agenda for review and consideration by Planning Commission members and interested persons. Public comments can also be submitted by calling the following phone number and leaving a voicemail message, 248-524-1305. Recorded voicemail messages received prior to 4:30 p.m. on the day of the Planning Commission meeting will be played at the meeting. Email and voicemail public comments will be limited to 3 minutes each. Do I get a second?
Second.
Mr. Lambert seconded. The vote, please, Ms. Zarnicki?
Ms. Cruz?
Yes.
Mr. Faison?
Yes.
Mr. Hudson?
Yes.
Mr. Krantz?
Yes.
Mr. Lambert?
Yes.
Mr. Rahman?
Yes.
Mr. Tagle?
Yes.
Mr. Abhidian?
Yes.
Passes. Next item on the agenda is approval of the agenda. Could I have a motion?
I'll move.
Thank you, Mr. Mr. Faison. Anyone want to second that?
I'll second that.
Very good. Mr. Hudson seconded. Vote, please.
Mr. Faison?
Yes.
Mr. Hudson?
Yes.
Mr. Krantz?
Yes.
Mr. Lambert?
Yes.
Mr. Rahman?
Yes.
Mr. Tagle?
Yes.
Mr. Abhidian?
Yes.
Ms. Cruz?
Yes.
Next item on the agenda is approval of the minutes. May I have a motion to approve the minutes from last meeting?
So moved.
Mr. Lambert moved. Second, please.
I'll second.
Mr. Rahman got it first. Okay. Vote, please, Ms. Zarnicki.
Mr. Hudson?
Yes.
Mr. Krantz?
Yes.
Mr. Lambert?
Yes.
Mr. Rahman?
Yes.
Mr. Tagle?
Yes.
Mr. Abhidian?
Yes.
Ms. Cruz?
Yes.
Mr. Faison?
Yes.
Okay, next item on the agenda is public comment. We're going to have someone on staff read any comments that were made that weren't able to be included in our packet.
Mr. Chairman, this is Brent.
Yep.
As the resolution indicated, all the public comment that was received prior to yesterday, Monday at 4:30 p.m. is in the packet. That was the revised packet was sent to all the planning commission members, and the revised packet that included all that public comment was also put on the website online so residents can read it. So we are only going to read those emails that we received between 4:30 Monday and 4:30 today. There are approximately 40. If you recall, on October 27th, there was about 140. So there's significantly fewer emails, but the way we're going to do it is Jackie's going to, and we also have 5 phone message voicemails. So Jackie's going to read the first about 30. I'm going to finish up reading the rest, and then Jackie's going to play the 5 voicemails. Is that okay?
That's excellent. Thank you.
So at this point, I believe Mr. Sagadot wanted me to give specific numbers. We have 3 voicemails, 41 emails to read tonight, and 22 emails in the packet. There were 2 emails received shortly ago that will go into the packet. You can view that later. All right, so I will begin reading. Okay. The first email is from Ashish Bajaj, Bajaj, from 6313 Country Ridge Drive, Troy, Michigan, 48098. I am writing in opposition to the proposed Westington condominiums on Crooks and Waddles. One of our main concerns was and is the density of the families proposed. The assumptions that these apartments will be occupied with young adults just moving out of parents' home or cohabitating adults without kids or senior citizens, empty nesters. I have visited friends in other townhomes in Troy and other parts of Southeast Michigan, and that is not a true depiction of who lives there. Many of these communities will house young families with school-age kids, including immigrant families. On average, there are approximately 2 kids per household in Troy. That means more than 200 kids will be living in this development. Hence, an assumption of low density of people in these types of development is wrong. Having kids in the family also increases traffic in the development, school and after-school activities, and risk of traffic accidents when kids have no place to play except the streets. These all will impact the quality of life and well-being of all citizens of Troy negatively. It jeopardizes the safety of current and future residents of Troy and will damage Troy's image. It will also impact our quality of life and our property values negatively. That is common sense, and we do not need a study. I do not see what positive impact this development will have on the city of Troy. I urge you all to represent the citizens of Troy and not the interest of the developer and their consultants who are not Troy citizens. You have to listen to citizens' concerns, which I can assure you did not occur when the last master plan was developed. I am sure the intentions were good, but the realities are ugly and we need to fix it next time. Please wait till the new master plan for the city is developed. Please, please, please. Do not tie our hands by approving this site plan. Best, Ashish Bajaj. This email is from Paul Ballas of 4087 Parkstone Court. Good evening. My name is Paul Ballas, and I live at 4087 Parkstone Court, north side of Wattles, west of Crooks. I oppose the Westington development for the following reasons. 1. Traffic considerations. The traffic at the corner of Wattles and Crooks is currently a problem, and it will be negatively impacted by the addition of another 100 living units with one entrance exit on Wattles Road. The traffic from 7-Eleven already creates significant hazards, and the proposed development will only add to the unsafe conditions at this intersection. Number 2, the proposed development is not consistent with the intent or spirit of the neighborhood nodes concept, based on the documentation in the Troy Master Plan. A, the success of a neighborhood node will play a critical role in the protection and cultivation of a high quality of life in Troy. B, development at this location should be low impact and provide a high benefit to the neighborhood using the least amount of land. The proposed development does not meet either of these conditions. Number 3, this type of development is inconsistent with the surrounding neighborhood and does not respond to the need for additional senior housing in Troy. I understand there are no elevators for 3-story buildings, which would greatly restrict the age of the tenants. I respectfully request that the Planning Commission utilize its authority to reject this proposal and consider alternate uses or developments for this property. Thank you for your consideration, Paul Ballas. This is from Sandeep Bhatti, B-H-A-T-T-I. I am writing in opposition to the proposed Westington condominiums on Crooks and Wattles. One of our main concerns was and is the density of the families proposed. The assumptions of these apartments will be occupied with young adults just moving out of their parents' homes or cohabitating adults without kids or senior citizens, empty nesters. I have visited friends and other townhomes in Troy and other parts of Southeast Michigan, and that is not a true depiction of their lives there. Many of these communities will house young families with school-aged kids, including immigrant families. On average, there are 2 kids per household in Troy. That means more than 2 kids will be living in the development. Hence, an assumption of low density of people in these types of development is wrong. Having kids in the family also increases traffic development, school and after-school activities, and risk of traffic accidents when kids have no place to play except streets. These all will impact the quality of life and well-being of all citizens of Troy negatively. It jeopardizes the safety of current and future residents of Troy and will damage Troy's image. It will also impact our quality of life and our property values negatively. That is common sense, and we do not need a study. I do not see what positive impact this development will have on the city of Troy. I urge you all to represent the citizens of Troy and not the interests of the developer and their consultants who are not Troy citizens. You have to listen to citizens' concerns, which I can assure you did not occur when the last master plan was developed. I am sure the intentions were good, but the realities are ugly and we need to fix it next time. Please wait till the next master plan of the city is developed. Please, please, please do not tie your hands by approving the site plan. Sandeep Bhatti. May I ask a question, please? Mr. Krent?
Yes, go ahead.
If a correspondence is verbatim, exactly the same, but signed by a different person. Do I read that each
No.
time?
No, what you could do is just say, this person, name the person, and they repeated that other person's, comments. That would
Okay,
be
because
more
that
expedient
is,
considering the time.
yeah, that happens a few times. So, okay, thank you.
Yep.
Next is Mary Branch from Miracle Drive. 102 residences jammed into that small area? Question mark. I know that developers want to maximize their profits, but at whose expense? The 7-Eleven and the dental studio building. This is a residential area. Waddles Road, west of Livernois, is basically a residential road. Please don't jam another beehive of 102 residences on every available corner or nook in Troy. Just because developers want to make money, please don't mess up our city. Mary Branch. From Sanjay Chawla, Chawla. No address. Dear Troy Planning Committee, I am writing to you to express my strong opposition to this proposed development in this area. It will overburden the school district and adversely affect traffic, greenery, and the look of the city. I hope you will not approve this project. Thank you, Sanjay Chawla. He is a resident of the Villas of Troy, though. This is from Joe Cole, Cole. I do not see his address. Good morning. My name is Joe Cole. I am the president of the WSE HOA. I and numerous residents in our subdivision are very much against this project. Questions. What is the impact of the drainage into the lane drain? Has a traffic study been done? Accidents are already a frequent event at the intersection of Crooks and Waddles. I am certain that they have increased with the addition of the 7-Eleven store and the small miniplex to the south. There are oftentimes backups from Crooks all the way to I-75 overpass. Add another 100+ cars attempting to enter onto Waddles and turn west, and this could be a nightmare. The result is a number of drivers will cut through our subdivision from Finch to McManus at excessive speeds. We have a lot of children in this area. This is a significant problem. School buses. I would assume there will have to be a bus stop within the complex. Is there adequate roadway for a bus to safely turn around? Its attempt to get back onto Waddles, it will cause even more delays. Was there a posting and notice of the proposed rezoning? 3-story units thought this wasn't allowed. You are overbuilding this area and it needs to stop. It certainly appears to many of us in the city that things are being done without sufficient notice to those directly affected. Joe Cole. This is from Sarah Compton, a resident who lives on Huron Drive. Hello, as a resident of Troy who lives in the neighborhood next to this proposed development, I must voice my objection. The corner of Waddles and Crooks is already a busy intersection. Attempting to make a left out of Finch is nearly impossible. This development would add anywhere from 100 to 200 cars in an already congested intersection, making it even more dangerous. In addition, we who live this area decided on this location due to the seclusion and natural elements that intertwined with our streets provided privacy. We do not want a development that will demolish what little nature is present, not have a towering complex overlooking our homes. If you have any further questions about my concerns, you can contact me. Sarah Compton. This is signed Ryan and Stephanie Giorio, Giorio, 4460 Lehigh Drive. For a planning commission, we would like to officially be on record as opposing the Westington proposed development at Crooks and Waddles. Signed concerned citizens, Ryan and Stephanie Giorio. This is SUDHANSHU Grover. That person is from 4886 Seasons. To the Planning Commission, City of Troy. Hello, my name is Sidanshu Grover, and I am a resident at 4886 Seasons. I have some serious concerns about the apartment complex that city is planning to approve on Waddles and Crooks, and I strongly oppose it. Key points. 1, Waddles is a single lane road, and Crooks, though double lane, both roads are heavy, busy during school and office times. So much so that the school buses struggle to drop kids on time. This proposal will add immense traffic to both roads and congest them heavily. Troy School District is struggling to keep up with the volume of kids. There's shuffling of kids and teachers happening in nearly every school. Classes are overloaded with kids in all nearby elementary and middle schools. This is going to add way too much kid strength, thereby degrading the quality of education and school governance. We need green in this west side of Troy. If you just throw away all the green beauty to builders, this area will be nothing but a concrete jungle and will drastically depreciate the value of this beautiful area. I strongly oppose and object to the proposal of building any apartment complex at Waddles and Crooks subdivision. Thanks and regards, Sudhanshu Grover. This is from the Gupta family. To the planning committee, me and my family have been Troy residents for the past 15 plus years. We moved to Troy to raise a family here because of the combination of green spaces and easy accessibility to necessities. We stay on Crooks, very close to the Waddles. Recently, though, the area has become very congested with traffic and does not give us the same secure feeling that we had when we moved here. Please do not consider adding apartment complexes and office structures in the area, making it more unsafe for our children. Thanks, the Gupta family. This is from Troy resident Randall Hicks, Hicks. Hello, I was contacting the planning department to raise my concern for the proposed apartment complex that will be built at Crooks and Waddles Road. With the exception of luxury apartments, I feel this development would negatively impact the value of the area and the value of my home nearby. There are multiple high-end homes on Waddles Road currently, and it would be benefit to the local residents to keep the value of the real estate as high as possible. The increased traffic on Waddles from the Big Beaver construction has been awful enough, and apartments would just add to the congestion. The condos and apartments that were built at Livernois and Square Lake Road and the condos, apartments being currently built at Livernois and Long Lake both look like inner city projects or government housing. They look cheap, and the existing residents nearby, I bet, don't feel these buildings add to the neighborhood. I understand the increase in tax base, but those buildings do not do anything for the image of Troy. Please save North Troy and not allow the Westington project. Luxury homes instead would be of much more benefit to the community as a whole. Thank you for your time and consideration, Troy resident Randall Hicks. This is from Judith Holmberg, Holmberg of 1351 Bradbury. Question and concern. Did the City of Troy's traffic engineer approve the impact study prepared by OHM, consulting company concerning the Westington development? My biggest concern is that traffic flow may be greatly impacted with an increased concentration of traffic on Waddles east of Crooks, once the 102 units are fully occupied. Currently at the 7-Eleven convenience store, there exists at certain times of day. Judith Holmberg, resident of Woodlands subdivision. This is signed Jing Huang, Huang, Washington Square resident, 3588 Oriole Drive. Dear Sir or Madam, we strongly oppose the Westington development at the southeast corner of Crooks and Waddles. Here are the reasons. 1, it will create more serious traffic issues on this corner. I personally have seen 2 car accidents within a year at this corner when vehicles are either turning into 7-Eleven or pulling out from 7-Eleven. While on the Waddles intersection, I frequently find myself nearly hitting a car directly in front of me who was trying to turn into 7-Eleven. As you can see, the traffic going to East Waddles is already a nightmare. We don't want more issues on the top of the nightmare. Number 2, the 7-Eleven parking area already has issues. Residents in Washington Square have noticed it is not safe to go there and warn our adventurous kids to not bike there. We are really concerned this new apartment development plan would add more issues on top. Number 3, our Washington Square neighborhood doesn't have the peace and quietness anymore. Every time we walk, you can see someone walking around the sub who we are sure they are not living in the sub. We don't feel as safe as before. If this development plan gets going, more people are going to come into our quiet sub. 4, please don't kill these little green woods. This corner is the only piece of green wood left in this block. City Troy should have the image of the best city to live. Obviously, the developer of this apartment doesn't care about this. They only pursue the profit of selling this apartment with premium price. When the day that people realize Troy is too packed and not a good place to live, house prices are coming down, who is going to suffer? We, the people, own the house, the city, Troy. Could be this developer. Number 5, I have voted for the city council members, which I think will protect our quiet neighborhood. I am confident that my voice will be heard and the city planner will make the right decision for the people who live in Troy. Thank you. Sincerely yours, Jing Huang. This is signed Tony Huang, Huang, to whom it may concern as a resident living at 772 Palermo Drive. I oppose the proposed development of a 3-story, 30-foot tall, 102-unit apartment complex located at the southeast corner of Wattles and Crooks. I believe this project will put pressure on our school system and increase traffic when COVID-19 is over. This is signed Sanjay Kumar, Kumar. Dear Planning Commission, first, as a almost 20-year resident of Troy, I'm proud to see how you've developed Troy's residential and commercial areas to make the city more prosperous and livable. It's certainly a difficult task. We live on Coolidge and Wattles, and our path is down Crooks and Wattles. In more recent times, it's been a walking and biking path. We are vehemently opposed to the Westington apartment complex at Wattles and Coolidge for these reasons and strong request it to be rejected. 1, this is a quiet residential neighborhood with a single-family homes that has held its value, made it safe for walkers and bikers. The skyline is not more than 2 stories, and it preserves the neighborhood feel. Number 2, this development is large units and are going to be eyesores. We don't want such design in our neighborhood. It sticks out, it's outdated, and does not fit the single-family homes around. 3, there will be a significant amount of traffic, and it's a huge risk to walkers and bikers, not to mention risk of accidents. 4, the entrance is from a few feet before the traffic signal, which means vehicles will go in and out just before the intersection, where already it gets crowded at rush hour. This means more risk of accidents. 5, this is not going to be safe for kids who go to Troy High with more traffic. Number 6, most importantly, it disturbs the serenity and peace of the area. Already the 7-Eleven and dentist office is making it look commercial, has increased traffic flow, dangerous turns into center lanes, and now it's going to totally change the look. We understand this is tax dollars and the owners sold the land. We're absolutely opposed to this for concerns about safety, lowering our property values, and disturbing the peace of the neighborhood. Please, we request rejecting the proposal today. Thank you, Sanjay Kumar. This is signed Joy Lackey, Lackey. I'm writing to express my concern with the city considering yet another apartment complex at Wattles and Crooks. These apartment complexes, such as the one behind the movie theater, the one on Livernois just north of Maple, and on Livernois across from the dog park, are an eyesore. They look industrial and too tall for the city. Further, they are turning our beloved city away from homes with families that are invested in the community's development and well-being and into a city of temporary residence. Please reconsider the development or at least limit the height of these hideous buildings. Thank you for your time, Joy Lackey. This is signed Laura Lipinski at 4233 Carson Drive. Dear Troy Planning Commission, I'm writing to express my opposition to the Westington proposed apartment development. I feel that the development is too dense for the corner of Wattles and Crooks. I also don't feel that the development is in keeping with the master plan, which states that development should be low impact, provide a high benefit to the neighborhood using the least amount of land. Compact, walkable mixed-use development with a combination of uses serving the immediate surroundings. At the November 10th, 2020 Planning Commission meeting, where the proposed Crooks Road townhomes were denied, we learned that the residents of Troy do not want high-density development at this corner. I also feel that it's important for the master plan to be reworked before the Planning Commission approves any more development at the corner of Crooks and Wattles. Since we live upstream from the Lane Drain Creek, I am also concerned that the intense development will cause issues with our sewers, causing water to back up into our homes. I feel that this development will cause traffic issues on Wattles since it is only a 2-lane street. I'm also still concerned that the entrance for the massive development is still too close to Crooks. I empathize with the homeowners that would be near this development, especially Daniel Papp and his family who live at 850 Bear Lane Drive. The Westington would be a nuisance to the nearby residents. I also don't see how the plan for this development is even possible, since the EVA require access onto Bear Lane, which is a private road owned by Daniel Papp. The developer would need permission to access Daniel's private road. In Daniel Papp's letter dated October 15th, 2020, it's very clear that he will not give the developer permission to access his private road. Furthermore, the property at 870 Bear Lane Drive, which is a part of the NN and is not included in the Westington plan, would be left unable to develop their land unless that property is included in the Westington plan. Since they're landlocked due to the private road, if that happens, that would create even more of a nuisance for the Papp family. The NN should not be developed in any way that creates a nuisance for the residents of Troy that surround the NN. I feel the NN at the corner of Crooks and Waddles would be ideal for the aging and people with disabilities community who want to own their own home. This demographic could use some spacious apartment-style condos that they own in Troy, with ranch-style condos as a transition to the residential homes. All floors not on the entry level would be accessible to everyone with the use of elevators. The Westington's current rental plan that only gives the aging and people with disabilities access to the first floor is not satisfactory. This plan does not benefit the surrounding neighborhood and is too dense. Please deny this proposal. At the very least, postpone it so the developer can prove that they can get permission from Daniel Papp to access his private road, and or so the master plan can be reworked. With great appreciation, Laura Lipinski. This is signed Jonathan Maksabo, Maksabo. Hi, I am writing in opposition to the proposed Westington condominiums on Crooks and Waddles. One of our main concerns was and is the density of the families proposed. The assumptions that these apartments will be occupied by young adults. If I may, this is a repeat email. Okay. Mr. Cramp, do I have to reference the email that it's repeating?
If you can, I realize
Okay.
it could get going through it to figure out what that. I think it's important just to voice the person
Yeah.
that's writing it or
Mhm.
repeating it, and that's sufficient because we already heard those comments.
Okay. I think I can find it quickly. It's referencing Sandeep Bhattis. Okay. And I believe I was on. And that was John Maksabo. Okay. It was the one that ended, please, please, please do not tie our hands. Okay. This next one is from Sincerely F. Marnandus, Marnandus, resident on Alpine Road. To whom it may concern, as a resident of close proximity to this project, my family and I are very concerned about the negative effects of this proposed development project. Our school teachers at Bemis Elementary have voiced out difficulties and adverse effects on learning to existing students because of the increased number of students per class. In the past 5 years, we have seen significant number of new students per class. The number of students per class have gone from the low 20s 5 years ago to the mid 30s this year. Traffic on Crooks toward Waddles has gotten more crowded, where we would wait 30 minutes just to go half a mile northbound around 5 to 6 p.m. to pass the traffic light. Please reconsider the interests of the current residents. Thank you for your attention. Sincerely, F. Marnandus. This is signed Kathy Metevir. What a surprise. The City Planning Commission is tearing up another huge green space and installing another massive apartment complex development. Surely you people don't need any more money in your pockets. Why are you so hell-bent on turning our once peaceful and once beautiful Troy into another restaurant, apartment complex, shopping mall area? We already have too much traffic congestion, too many restaurants, and a much higher crime rate due to all the overdevelopment that you've allowed. It's nauseating that not one of you will stand up to Savadant, who doesn't even reside in Troy and does not have any concern. Am I reading this? It's not very nice. I still read it, Mr. Krant?
Jackie, we can't edit. Unless it's vulgar, we can't edit.
Yeah.
Okay, so I just don't have to say swear words going forward,
Correct.
right? Okay, all right, here we go. Okay, who does not even reside in Troy and does not have any concern for Troy's actual citizens. I'm sure you're already overpaid for what you don't do for our city. It's time for you to start doing your jobs and stop focusing on how much more money you can rake in. Remember that Troy is not yours to destroy. I'm sure this letter will never see the light of day. No one at the Troy Planning Commission cares about anything except their own self-interests. We do not need more cheap, crappy apartment units. This is signed Mike and Yvette Metz, M-E-T-Z of 1239 Bradbury. Planning Commission members. My wife and I built our home in the Woodlands of Troy subdivision over 32 years ago. We've enjoyed living here and are planning to remain here for the rest of our lives. We attended the Crooks Road Development Project proposal meetings that eventually led to the Planning Commission rejecting it. We were opposed to that development and remain vehemently opposed to any other similar high-density residential projects in the Wattles and Crooks neighborhood node. I know that you have heard the arguments in opposition to these projects, and many of them remain the same, regardless of which corner of the intersection is being discussed. The downsides far outweigh the benefits to the surrounding neighborhoods. I hope that you see fit to vote in favor of supporting projects that would actually benefit the neighborhoods and not developers seeking to maximize their profits per acre at our expense. Thank you, Mike and Yvette Metz of 1239 Bradbury. This is signed Ashish Modi, M-O-D-I. Hello, Troy City Planning Team. I am a resident of Troy with my house at Long Lake in Livernois since 2015 and one of the honest taxpayers with no outstanding dues. I am very concerned about these developments and projects because I feel they are not well thought out, hasty, and not congruent to the surrounding of the area and will impact our way of life. I have school-going kids, and I feel introducing apartment complexes will negatively impact both the quality and availability of school seats in this area. Property prices will also get negatively impacted with the growing development in this area, and needless to say, our quality of life, privacy, and safety will be compromised too. Request you all to please arrange an open dialogue with the Troy residents wherein we can come and voice our concerns on such projects before they get approved. Please consider my request and hold on to such projects. You can reach me if needed. Ashish Modi. This is signed Marilyn Papandrea, P-A-P-A-N-D-R-E-A, to the Planning Commission. Please look closely at the plans for a development at Wattles and Crooks. The 102-unit complex being considered for that area definitely is not an asset to our city. Wattles is congested as it is just from the 7-Eleven that occupies the corner. Also, the development looks like Army barracks. Please consider the size and curb appeal of the development before allowing this to be an eyesore in the area. There are other development in the area that are much less intrusive, like the condos by I-75. We do not need these towering units on that property. Please listen to property owners in the area and not just the developers. Thank you. This is signed Mark and Diane Paul of 3844 Root Drive. We strongly object to the proposed Westington apartment complex at Crooks and Wattles Roads. The additional 102 families will cause a great deal more traffic at an intersection that is already busy and somewhat dangerous thanks to 7-Eleven. There would be a great number of drivers attempting to make a left turn onto Wattles Road in order to go anywhere west. Please do not approve this proposal. Please stop rezoning single-family lots to multifamily, making Troy a much less desirable place to live. This is signed Jayashri Rao, R-A-O. Hello, I am a citizen of Troy and I'm writing to you as I feel strongly against the project that is under consideration at the junction of Crooks and Waddles. This will increase congestion. Troy has slowly become a concrete jungle and I think this will negatively impact the property value of my house. His address is 4415 Winter Green Drive. This is signed Daniel Raubinger, Raubinger, President, Board of Directors, Woodlands of Troy Homeowners Association, 4083 Penrose Court. Troy Planning Commission members, how does a development proposal that essentially meets zoning requirements be so at odds with its surrounding and public opinion? That's a question for each of you as you consider master plan updates and future zoning law changes. The commission doesn't simply approve proposals that meet zoning requirements. You are not robots. Specifically, why is this Westington neighborhood node development proposal that splits 2 existing residential lots with a 3-story apartment building allowed to proceed this far? And that same proposal also requires fire department approval that hinges on emergency vehicle access via a private gravel road that will never be granted by that owner. There are certainly other development possibilities for this neighborhood node. The developer owns adjacent R1B parcels to the east along Waddles Road. It would not be unreasonable to consider rezoning and consolidating those to make a larger, less dense, and more upscale proposal. Much of that land within the 100-year floodplain could be a beautiful green space. As was adequately expressed in the Crooks Road Townhomes public comment, retirees in this area have nowhere to move and remain in this vicinity because nothing else is suitable for empty nesters and active seniors. At a macro level, when you view the transition from Waddles Creek condominiums and Weston Downs cluster homes to the east and Chatfield detached condominiums to the west at Coolidge, is it so hard to envision 2,000 to 2,300 square foot condos at the Waddles and Crooks neighborhood node, or stacked single level units with elevators? This current plan for a portion of the southeast NN should be tabled until 1, either the parcels to the east are annexed into it, 2, remaining R1B parcels are acquired. This proposal shows little respect for those current residents and is a piecemeal proposal. It is not the intent of the Woodlands of Troy Homeowners Association to oppose all development of the Crooks and Waddles NN and deny the property owner, our developer too, a decent return on his investment. Make it beautiful, make it something to be proud of decades from now, respectfully submitted. And I have one more. This is signed Jean Stein. Brent, this is ludicrous. People exiting the 7-Eleven onto Waddles to go west have to wait forever to get out. Also, people exiting Finch Road to go west have to wait forever to go west, especially when a lot of westbound Waddles. Southbound Crooks shortcut through Finch and Huntsford, causing it to take as much as 6 and even 7 minutes to get out onto Waddles Road. I know because I've been caught there. Please, there needs to be some further thought on this matter. That concludes my section, and Brent, you'll start at Ramesh, please.
Okay, I think I've got 10. We're in the home stretch. Hello, my name is Aish Ramesh, and I'm a resident of Troy. My address is 4609 Calling Drive, Troy, Michigan. I would like to oppose this idea of the Westington project. This project is going to increase the flow of traffic and congestion, increase the number of students in Troy schools, and the buildings will be an eyesore. I strongly disagree with this initiative. Thank you, Aish Ramesh. This is from Raymond A. Richard from 344 Colebrook Drive, Troy, Michigan. Our family has been living in the city of Troy since 1973. I'm very concerned with this project and all of the projects going up in our community of this type. I know the city of Troy has a slogan, the city of tomorrow, but I believe it was meant to be of single-family homes. I am not for this type of development. Please add my name to the list of homeowners against these projects. This is from Rovita, no address. The Planning Commission. I'm writing to express my concern about the number of multi-unit apartment complexes being built in Troy West. We oppose the construction proposed at the intersection of Wattles and Crooks. Thank you, Rovita. This is from Patricia Serafini. No address given. Dear City Planning Commission, I am a longtime resident of Troy and would like to express my opinion about the proposal of building 102 apartments behind the 7-Eleven at Crooks and Wattles. The traffic on Crooks Road is already extremely heavy due to it being one of the main ways to get up to I-75 just above Long Lake Road. Troy is already busting at the seams traffic-wise. I'm against having another apartment complex built at this location. Thank you for listening. Patricia Serafini. This is from Anshul Shah. Hello, my name is Anshul Shah, and I'm a resident of Troy. My address is 4609 Calling Drive, Troy, Michigan. I would like to oppose this idea of the Westington project. This project is going to increase the flow of traffic and congestion, increase the number of students in Troy schools, and the buildings will be an eyesore. I strongly disagree with this initiative. Thanks, Anshul Shah. This is from Ashka Shah. To whom it may concern, I'm writing in opposition to the proposed Westington condominiums on Crooks and Wattles. One of our main concerns was and is the density of the families proposed. The assumption is that these apartments will be occupied with young adults just moving out of parents' homes or cohabiting adults without kids or senior citizens, empty nesters. I visited friends in other townhomes in Troy and other parts of Southeast Michigan, and that is not a true depiction of who lives there. Many of these communities will house young families with school-age kids. On average, there are about 2 kids per household in Troy. That means more than 200 kids will be living in this development. Hence, an assumption of low density of people in these types of development is wrong. Having kids in the family also increases traffic in the development, school and after-school activities, and risk of traffic accidents when kids have no place to play except streets. These will all impact the quality of life and well-being of the citizens of Troy negatively. It jeopardizes the safety of current and future residents of Troy and will damage Troy's image. It will also impact our quality of life and our property values negatively. That is common sense, and we do not need a study. I do not see what positive impact this development will have on the city of Troy. I urge you all to represent the citizens of Troy and not the interests of the developer and their consultants who are not Troy citizens. You have to listen to citizens' concerns, which I can assure you did not occur when the last master plan was developed. I'm sure the intentions were good, but the realities are ugly and we need to fix it next time. Please wait till the new master plan for the city is developed. Please, please, please do not tie our hands by approving this site plan. This next one is from Ananya Shah. Hello, my name is Ananya Shah, a resident of Troy for 20 years. I'm writing in opposition to the proposed Westington condominiums on Crooks and Wattles. One of our main concerns was and is the density of the families proposed. The assumptions that these apartments will be occupied with young adults just moving out of parents' homes or cohabiting adults without kids or senior citizens / empty nesters. I visited. This is the exact same verbiage. This is the exact same verbiage as the previous email.
This is a repeat.
It's the same verbiage. You already heard it. This is, for the record, this is Ananya Shah. Same last name as the last person that wrote this.
Thank you.
This next one is from Jigna Shah. That's, I think, 4 consecutive Shahs. Respected Planning Commission officials, I've been a Troy City resident for over 20 years. We chose to live in Troy because of the city's reputation, safety, city planning, school, and environment. We elected you all for the city of Troy and put our trust in you. We hope that you respect our concerns and work with residents on our own Troy city's best interests so we can peacefully wake up every day and go to work. I'm not against Troy City's development if it is according to the master plan, complementing surrounding structures, and if it helps to enhance the city's image, but at least not compromise it. Development should be kids-friendly, where there's open space, have play structures, but not congestion, traffic jams, and lack of parking spaces. I see that one after another such developments are coming up in Troy, which is eyesore to us. We don't see any effort of partnership between residents, city, and developers. City officials need to revisit neighborhood node planning and not allow such proposals to come to the city's meeting for approval. It is a waste of everyone's time and resources. I strongly oppose the Westington project, and even more so, the city's disregard for their residents' best interest in the democratic process. You all know that Troy residents have raised concerns for traffic congestion, lack of parking, effect on wildlife, green space, property value, etc. during a meeting for other such development last month. Please disapprove of this proposal with your residents' best interest in mind. Thanks, Jinga Shaw. Address 4088 Parkstone Court, Troy, Michigan. This next one is from Bhaskar Thota. Troy Planning Commission, good afternoon. This is with reference to the Westington proposed development, southeast corner of Wattles and Crooks. Per your notification and publish, this project will cause the following impact. First, you guys need to fund the increasing the facility, school students and teachers ratios and services to current residents and kids. Without focusing on the services, just adding new residents and apartments in the subdivision is not acceptable. I will reject the proposal for this 100 plus apartments agenda. Adding 100 plus apartments residences will mean adding about approximately 200 plus kids into the Troy schools in this area. This will result in increasing the student to teacher ratio, which is already bad. This will mean the attention and care given to each student will be reduced. This will impact the education of my kids as well as a lot of other kids in this area. Adding 100 plus new residences means more cars and traffic. This will add to the congestion and impact the commute and also may increase the accident risk. Adding 100 plus new residents will mean more people in the city trying to use the same services. Adding 100 plus new residents mean that you will destroy the greenery in this area for doing this construction. This will impact not just the human beings, but also the animal life, like the deers in this area. I and my family personally do not agree to this project for the above reasons. This project will impact a lot of residents in this area, and I am completely against it. I'm sending this email requesting to stop this project. Please let me know if you have any questions. Bhaskar Thota, 788 Palermo, Troy, Michigan. This email is from Vandam Kumar. Dear Troy, and that's 740 Palermo Drive, Troy, Michigan. Dear Troy Planning Commission, good afternoon. This is with reference to the Westington proposed development. Per my understanding, this project will cause the following impact. Adding 100 plus new residences will mean about approximately 200 plus kids into the Troy schools in this area. This will result in increasing the student to teacher ratio, which is already bad. This will mean the attention and care given to each student will be reduced. This will impact the education of my kids as well as a lot of other kids in this area. In this verbatim bullet points from the previous email with the concerns related to the increase of 100 plus apartment units, and they strongly oppose this application. Again, that's Vandam Kumar, 740 Palermo Drive, Troy, Michigan. This next email is from Susan Voital. Dear Planning Commission, Troy doesn't need another apartment complex, especially at Wattles and Crooks. The traffic in Troy is outrageous. We don't need this kind of housing. There are tons of apartments in the city. Pull the Westington project for the good of the city. Thank you for your time. S.M. Voital, Troy resident for 28 years, no address provided. This next email is from Jinming Zhu, 4179 Carson Drive. Dear Planning Commission, I'm writing to express my vehement opposition to the Westington proposed development at the corner of Wattles and Crooks. It comes as a great surprise to me that in less than a month, yet another similar project is again proposed and will be discussed. I thought we were done with this type of high-density development project. The new development proposed by Sestington seems equally bad, if not worse than the Toolbrook one. The concerns with this type of dense development are real and many, including but not limited to transition, compatibility, parking, safety of children, overdevelopment, and the huge impact on traffic, existing utilities, emergency access, school capacity, and environment. A development like this will not benefit the community, but to negatively impact it. As the residents have expressed, they are open to development in Troy, but not this kind of high-density ones. Please consider the adverse impacts of this development and vote it down with the best interest of Troy residents in mind. Respectfully, Jinming Zhu, 4179 Carson Drive. And this is my last email that I'm going to read. This is from Ringo Zhang. Dear Planning Commission members, this is Ringo Zhang, a resident living at Whisperway Drive. I strongly object to the Westington proposed development located at southeast corner of Wattles and Crooks. The 3-story, 102-unit apartment complex will cause the traffic jam and safety issues at the cross between Crooks Road and Wattle Road. In addition, the Troy Public Schools, especially high school capacity, also cannot sustain this 102-unit apartment complex. Thanks for your considerations, Ringo Zhang. And that concludes the reading of the emails. And now Jackie has 3 phone messages she will play.
Good morning. My name is David Rusing. I live at 1425 Bridge. Construction.
Mr. Chairman, can you hear that?
No, we cannot.
You cannot hear that?
No.
That's strange. I did not do anything different than I have in previous meetings. Hold on one second. I'll try again.
Good morning. My name is Rusing. I live at 1425 Bridge in Anderson.
Would you hear that?
It started okay, then it petered out.
Okay. We do have Bob in the background. He's our IT person. Nope.
Yeah, what can I do? Yeah, I can't make the sound any better from your side.
Okay. I'm not doing, do you think I'm doing anything incorrectly? Because I did everything I've always done. Is it just that you can't hear it very well?
Yeah, it's just being garbled.
Okay.
You're playing the email on your speakers and holding up your microphone to them?
Actually, what I did is unplug my earbuds, as I've done before, and brought it down so that the speaker would be close.
Yeah, I'm not sure what else you could possibly do.
Okay.
You try one other one and then
Okay.
see how that sounds and maybe go back to that first one.
Okay, thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Vanden Kumar Mani. I live in 740 Palermo Drive, Michigan. And this is about the Westington proposed development at the southeast corner of Wattle and Crooks. I heard construction has been planned to introduce more than 100 new residences here. This is affected if you do so. Personally, I think the region my phone number is 245.
You could hear that? No.
Yeah, only parts of it, but not enough to understand the message, though.
Okay. What would you like me to do? I'm not doing anything different than I've done in previous meetings.
Is this person for or against the development?
Against?
And could you repeat that person's name?
Sure. Okay, let me do that. So that person is Vanden Kumar Mandi at 740 Palermo, and he is opposed.
Okay. Could you?
And I'll tell you the next.
Yeah, go
Do you want me to just? Okay. That one, the last name is Shaw, and they oppose. And I'll do the
Okay,
last one.
Okay.
That one is David Rusing. He may have sent an email also. He lives at 1425 Bradbury, and he is opposed. Those are the 3 voicemails.
Thank you very much, and thank you for all your reading, Jackie. It's really appreciated.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, that concludes all of the public comment. So now we're going to go on to the item number 6, which is the preliminary site plan review, file number SP 2019-0045, proposed the Westington south side of, which is on the south side of Waddles, east of Crook, section 21, currently zoned NN Neighborhood Node I District.
If I could ask IT support to share their screen with Ben Carlisle.
Okay, sure.
Thank you. Good evening to the Planning Commission. Can everyone see my screen? The thumbs up? Great, thank you. Mr. Chairman, I have a very short presentation that follows the outline of my memo. A quick background. The site is approximately 3.4 acres in area. Right now it's currently improved with 3 single-family homes. The site is adjacent to a 7-Eleven on the corner of Crooks and Waddles. That site is zoned neighborhood node. In addition, it's located next to a medical office, which is also zoned neighborhood node. To the east is single family, partially zoned. This is zoned neighborhood node, and this property is zoned single family and is zoned single family residential. To the north is single family residential use, also zoned neighborhood node. The property in question itself is zoned neighborhood node. At the last Planning Commission meeting, this was considered, was October 27th. And at that meeting, there was a lengthy discussion, both via public comments, as well as from the Planning Commission. And the discussion included questions about the massing of Building A, which is the building along Waddles, and the potential to split those 2 buildings up. There were traffic concerns, specifically congestion and stacking as you enter and exit the site. Access on Waddles in the proximity to the 7-Eleven store and the Crooks Road intersection. There was a question if the applicant could relocate access further to the east to relieve potential traffic implications. Questions about building setback in relation to the 7-Eleven store. Question about whether or not a traffic study had been conducted, the timing of the conduction of that traffic study, and if when the city reviewed the traffic study. There was questions about the potential widening of Waddles Road and the city engineering department confirmed that the paved section of the road on the new bridge over Wattles is 2-lane, but is constructed to accommodate additional lanes. Furthermore, there was discussion about relocating the building entry to the opposite side of Wattles, potentially could create some additional grading challenges. There were questions about the floor plans with regard to the size of them. There were questions about with regards to the emergency vehicle access and the obligation of the applicant to comply with the fire department requirements. Lastly, there are questions about the density and the compatibility with the neighborhood, the relationship of the project to the master plan, and the intent of the neighborhood node zoning. Based on all those comments from the Planning Commission, the meeting was continued or postponed to allow the applicant to address really 3 specific items. One was to look at and address the location of the access and see if they can move it farther to the east, to address the concerns about the potential massing or the massing of the building on Wattles, and lastly, to explore traffic issues on Wattles at the Crooks Road intersection. Since that meeting, the applicant has provided a revised site plan that you see in front of you. There's 3 significant changes in the site plan that I will note. The first is regard to the building that fronts on Wattles. This is what we labeled initially as Building A. The building has been broken up into 2 separate buildings. The Planning Commission members, at one point, this was all essentially one building that was the same massing as this proposed building here, but the building has been broken up into 2 smaller buildings. By breaking up this building into 2, the applicant has reduced the overall number of units from 108 to 102, a loss of 6 units. And then lastly, based on the direction of the Planning Commission, the applicant shifted the drive access further east on Wattles Road. So the north arrow is actually this way. So the applicant moved it further east. If the Planning Commission remembers, the previous access was located in this general location on the site plan. So those are the 3 significant changes that the applicant has proposed or shown. With regards to access and circulation layout, all access to the site will be off West Wattles. There is a proposed EVA off Bearline, which is a private drive located south of the development. The applicant should well be required to obtain the legal egress and easement to that private road. And again, it must support the weight of a fire truck. The applicant is going through that due diligence period. Traffic and circulation has been reviewed by OHM, who is the city's traffic consultant. And they do note that the updated plans have relocated the proposed site driveway approximately 200 feet to the east, which provides greater separation of Crooks Road. The new location will minimize interaction between the site traffic and the queued vehicle in the left-hand turn lane, providing traffic safety and operational benefits. In addition, a right turn deceleration has been added, and OHM does support the changes to site access. OHM does recommend approval of the preliminary site plan. And again, we want to note with regards to bulk requirements, the proposed development does comply with all the neighborhood node district requirements. The applicant did lose 6 units, but they didn't lose parking. So the applicant was required to provide 174 spaces based on the unit count. They're providing 185 spaces, so there are 11 extra or guest parking spaces on the development. Traffic obviously was a big issue that was raised at the last meeting. I just want to reiterate that this did go through the city's traffic engineering consultants review. Their review was based on 108 units, so actually this is 6 units less than what they initially reviewed. And they did note that the AM peak hour traffic would be a total of 39 vehicles in that peak period, and I'm sorry, AM period, and in a peak period, peak period would be, and the PM would be 48 units. They anticipate a total of a little bit less than 600 vehicles a day generated from this site. So in their conclusion, they do note that the traffic generated by the development is quite minimal, with just a handful of vehicles during the peak period. And that's partly just the sheer traffic volumes that you have on Crooks and Livernois and Wattles. They note that they have vary between 1,300 and 2,000 vehicles during the peak period and 15,000 to 20,000 vehicles a day. So the number of vehicles with the addition of this development, in their opinion, is rather negligible and will not be perceived by the majority of the users. They are recommending approval of the project as submitted. With regards to elevations, the elevations have changed only in the fact that the building A that fronts on Wattles has been broken up. So this is the building that fronts on Wattles. This is a little bit smaller building, a little larger building. These are the 2 buildings in the front elevation on Wattles. These are the larger buildings that are located in the rear of the site. Again, these are not broken up. They're the same massing that they were before. And again, the same architecture of the French mansard roof architecture is what is being proposed. With that being said, we are recommending preliminary site plan approval with the condition that the applicant address the fire department's comments with regard to access. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you. Mr. Savadat, do you have anything to add before we go to questions from the commission?
I do not. I think Mr. Carlisle did an excellent job.
Okay. Someone's giving us much feedback. I don't know whose mic is on that's doing that, but if you can turn your mic off so we don't hear that annoying noise. Okay. Next, we'd like to hear from the applicant. So who's going to speak for the applicant at this point?
I will, Mr. Krent.
Okay.
I'm Peter Stuhlreier with Design House Architecture. Thank you for having us here this evening for this presentation. Ben, you did a wonderful job summarizing what the changes have been to this point since the last meeting. Like I said, my name is Peter Stuhlreier, owner of Design House Architecture. We're in Auburn Hills, Michigan. I'm here joined by the civil engineer and the landscape architect, as well as the owners of the property. And just to summarize what we gathered ourselves together at the end of the last meeting to kind of brainstorm about some of the concerns that we had regarding the building A and some of the access, and made some adaptations, as you can see in the site plan, where we broke up building A into 2 separate buildings at the cost of 6 units, and then moved the drive to the east to get it further away from the 7-Eleven entrance and the intersection. So we think that was a pretty good move. We're able to absorb those costs into the development. And we're about 11 parking spaces heavy. And I didn't hear from Ben or Brent that those were not going to be allowed. We're nowhere near the coverage. So even if we took those spaces out and added them to the landscape or the open space, we're still well above the open space requirement, also the landscape requirement. It should be noted also on the record that we do have a play area for children, lots of open ground and open space available for the new residents. So I know that came up during the public comment, but there's plenty of places to go other than out into the street. And in regards to the EVA and the easement on the private drive, those are issues that civil engineering and ownership will deal with, I think, in the final site plan approval. So with that, I mean, if there's any other comments, I can respond to some of the public comments, but I think that if you want to bring those back up and ask me questions about specific public comment, I'd be happy to respond to some of those.
Any questions for the applicant from the commission? Go ahead, Mr. Rahman.
The applicant just mentioned that we have plenty of space for the kids so they can play. Can you please show me on the map? I just want to see where it is.
Well, it's on the east. My camera seems to chop out when we share screen, so you might not see me if Ben shares the screen for the site plan.
I can share the screen if
That's fine.
IT will.
Ben, Ben, you're still a presenter. You should be able just to open it.
Yeah, I'm trying. It's not allowing me yet, Bob.
All right, one second. Let me change it to Brent, and then I'll change it back to you.
Do I have to,
It's
Okay, there you go. So on the east where the cursor is, you'll see the open lawn. There's a grill area and a pavilion over there.
And what is the dimension of this area? I mean, do you have an estimate? Like,
Probably, it looks like it's about 60 feet or so. Well, maybe more than that. Maybe about 80 feet by 120 feet, something like that.
Okay.
yeah, obviously it's not big enough for 102 apartments. 102 families, probably. Okay, no, thank you.
Okay, any other questions for the applicant from the commission? Go ahead, Mr. Abhidian.
Just a question for the architect. I guess just to follow up on open space for the residents. When you design a multifamily project like this or an apartment project like this, do you design open space to accommodate all residents in that area at one time? Or what's a typical, or is there a typical number or percentage of residents that you would expect could use an open space?
That's a complicated question, but of course it's not designed for 100% of the occupants at the same time at all. And in a developed community that offers amenities throughout the community, including parks and other things, some of our dependence is on the community providing recreational amenities. So, but in this case, that amount of green space within our community is more than normal. I can tell you that.
Well, normal for some situations. I know the Somerset Park Apartments has a proportion to the buildings is much greater. They've got a golf course, they've got a lot of other amenities, and a lot of open space. So that's normal in Troy. That was the first major apartment development in Troy back in the 1960s. So that is our normal. Any other comments? Well, one quick thought, and I don't know who would address this, either the designer or possibly the owner. We had a comment saying that the private road is owned by Daniel Papp, and he will never allow that to be used for fire access. So where do we stand on that? Does this whole thing hinge on that approval? And if he says no, what happens to this whole project? Does anybody have an answer?
I can probably step in. I'm the attorney, Greg Oldboy from Carson Fisher. Mr. Papp, I believe, is a little naive to what that road is. That road actually services all the property that abuts it from the north, such that all the property owners have access to it. It's not his personal private drive. And he doesn't control it per se. We're confident that we'll be able to get and provide the city the comfort that it needs to have access.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments from the commission?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
just regarding the road, we're treating the road similar to how we treat other technical matters related to site plan approval, so like, for example, wetland permits, where it's unreasonable to expect the applicant to resolve all technical matters prior to preliminary site plan approval. This is a matter that is appropriately addressed during final site plan approval. The EVA it's required that this development have EVA, emergency vehicle access, EVA, and that access shall be able to withstand the weight of 60,000 pound vehicle. If that condition is not met, they can't move forward. So they're going to have to do this. Now, keep in mind, this is for emergency vehicle access. It's going to be controlled with a gate or with a bollard. It's not going to be used every day. It's possible that it would never be used, hopefully, for emergency vehicle access. We've got a number of them in Troy, and I'm not aware of how many times the EVAs in Troy have been used, if ever. So it is an emergency vehicle access. It is not for day-to-day use.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Any other comments from the commission before we have a resolution? Mr. Aparidian.
I have one question for the applicant's attorney. Can you please clarify if does every owner on that street where the EVA is a private road, is every owner who has frontage on that road have equal access to that road legally, or is it just owners who have owned property on that road before this project came along? Or can you shed a little bit of light on that? Who has legal access to that road?
Well, I guess the term isn't even to call it a road. It's a private access, and it benefits the properties to the north. It was once part of a, without getting too complicated, part of a larger parcel, and that I'm literally going back 80 years on this, and it granted and left behind this road to service the northern properties. So they all have access to it equally to the property. Even more so, if you look at some of those parcels that are in there, they are parceled off. They're only access to a public right-of-way, and the city can only grant tax parcels if there's legal access to that parcel. So some of those properties to the east of here could only be parceled off if they had legal access to Crooks Road. So even there, the city's probably already made its own decision on that by parceling off some of those lots in there, or permitting those lots to be parceled off, because that is a criteria for lot splits, such that you don't have landlocked parcels.
Any other comments before we ask someone to come up with a resolution? Mr. Lambert.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I got a question for Mr. Carlisle and Mr. Savidant. First, for Mr. Carlisle. At our previous meeting, your report to us discussed the massing of the building on Waddles. Do you believe the petitioner has adequately addressed that with their proposal to split the building in half?
I do, Mr. Lambert. I feel like the building that they'd originally proposed had a very large mass, mostly due to the length of it. I think by breaking it up, they have reduced the massing, so there is light and air that would be allowed between the building and not be such a big mass along the roadway. And I believe that was also a direct a recommendation of this planning commission as well. So yes, in my opinion, I believe they have addressed that concern that we had raised earlier.
Okay, thank you. And then for Mr. Savidant, not to get our Troy School District Superintendent in any more trouble than he's gotten in the past over this question, but many of the residents who have addressed this proposal have brought up the whole issue of overcrowding in the Troy schools. And I know in the past you received a letter from Dr. Macheski addressing this issue. I was wondering if you could kind of give a summary of what he informed the planning commission and the city in the past about the issue of overcrowding when it comes to planning decisions.
Yeah, basically to try to summarize this very succinctly, the school superintendent is on the record, written record provided to the planning commission that every child in this Troy School District will be accommodated appropriately. And they are not concerned with residential development negatively impacting the Troy School District. Again, I'm not trying to put words on paper, but they didn't believe that there was necessarily an issue, an overcrowding issue associated with the additional residential development that we're seeing.
Mr. Faison, go ahead.
Yeah, I had a question. I think it's for Brent or Ben. Oh, actually, I know it's for Brent or Ben. It's on the traffic study, because I know we spent a fair amount of time talking about that last time. And I get that the incremental traffic at the peak hour is small. But one of the specific things that was discussed was the stacking and the ingress and egress at that corner. And I was curious if that aspect of traffic is looked at by our traffic study, or do you just make the assumption if it's only an incremental, 40 cars when there maybe are 1,500 an hour, that's not going to be a significant impact?
I can tell you, Mr. Faison, this applicant did submit a traffic study. It was reviewed by the traffic consultant. They found the traffic study to be sufficient and not require any additional improvements. Neither Director Savenant nor I are traffic experts. We rely on the expertise of our experts, and they felt that traffic was okay. The light could handle the additional traffic, and they also strongly support the recommendation of this planning commission to shift that entrance and exit further east, which allows for additional stacking to that intersection. So I think that in the opinion of the traffic consultant, traffic is sufficient based on this proposal.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
Go ahead, Mr. Hapahidian.
Question for Brent or Ben. There were numerous residents who raised the concern or the request to postpone or deny this project until the master plan gets modified for our neighborhood node zoning district. Does the Plan Commission have that authority to postpone or deny this project or any other project until any changes are made to the master plan in order to retroactively influence this project or any other project? Can we do that?
Mr. Chairman, may I?
Of course.
Yeah, you've seen the reports before you. We have a valid master plan in place. It is open to interpretation. This item is before you this evening. We're recommending you take action on this item this evening and not postponing this item until we amend the master plan. And we don't know at this time what we're going to do with this neighborhood node. We haven't even initiated the process of updating the master plan. We could potentially be a year out from doing that. This item is before us this evening. It is under consideration this evening. We've got all the information before us this evening, including public input, to make an informed decision.
Anyone else like to make a comment before we put forth a resolution? Well, the only comment hang on, Mr. Rahman. The only thing I'd say is that obviously we're going to have to look deeply into what we're doing with neighborhood nodes. My thought on neighborhood nodes, as I was, this happened before I was on the commission, but my thought when I was listening to the early talks was that the neighborhood nodes would really be an asset to help provide some kind of retail or services to the surrounding neighborhoods. Very little was talked about housing, and it seems that most of the development at these neighborhood nodes seems to be row housing, and it's not we've got one 7-Eleven, we've got a dental office, But I thought the majority, let's say 90% of what this is going to be used for, these neighborhood nodes, was to help service the neighboring community, and maybe a few houses above those stores or something like that. Not a whole series, or let's say 80% of the land being used for row housing. So they kind of flipped it on its head, as far as I'm concerned, what the intent for neighborhood nodes is all about. So it's kind of disturbing to see this massing of row housing in an area that already, it's the major intersections, already very congested areas. All these neighborhood node areas are very congested as they stand now. Why are we implementing massive new high density housing? That's the big question I think is before us as a commission, but that doesn't really pertain necessarily to this particular case, because this is what it is today, and we have to deal with the plans today as outlined in our existing ordinances and master plan. Any other comments?
I have one. I know that one of the items that we discussed in the last meeting was the density. So I know that we reduced it by only 6 units. So why could not reduce it further? I mean, is there any reason? I mean, it seems like it's a very minimal was done, and was done just because the building had to be divided into 2 buildings. So I don't see any effort in trying to reduce the density or the number of apartments in this updated design, updated plan. Can we get some explanation? I mean, from the petitioner. Can we have like a different business plan so that we can have larger apartments?
I'll let you made your point. Anyone from the applicant would like to talk to that, address that concern?
I mean, I can talk to it, but the reality is that the building height is basically the same as single family in terms of the required maximum, and the open space is much greater than is required. So I'm not sure how exactly to talk about unit count versus acreage, other than to say, there's a parcel, and these are reasonably low buildings. They're residential in quality and design. So I don't know that making them bigger apartments in the same amount of coverage is going to change anything in terms of the appeal.
Well, it will reduce the number of units so that you will have fewer families, right? When you increase the floor area, it will reduce the number of units. So no effort was put into that, right? Like, you didn't try anything. Okay.
We reduced by 6.
Okay. Does anyone like to move forward the resolution?
So, Mr. Chairman, just a question.
Sure.
With all that silence, do you think we need more discussion, or you think we're ready for a resolution?
Well, I asked for any more discussion, but didn't seem to get any, so I was just going for the resolution at this point, unless there is someone that's got another comment that's a concern about this development.
I'm going to ask one clarifying question. I think I know the answer to this question, either Brent or Ben. So this project, as presented, meets all the current zoning requirements. Is that correct?
Mr. Faison, it meets all the zoning requirements, I would say the hard requirements. So height.
Correct. Understood.
setback, parking, yes, it does meet that. Now, there are standards with regards to compatibility, transition, and that's really up to the jurisdiction of the Planning Commission. In our opinion, we think this is an appropriate transition. It's an appropriate use for this parcel. But again, it's under your purview with regards to those standards. But in terms of the hard number standard, yes, it meets the zoning ordinance requirement.
Yeah, no, I didn't ask the question specifically enough. No, I understood it to be exactly what you said. So, Mr. Chairman, I can read the resolution if you like.
Please do.
Okay. Resolved that preliminary site plan approval pursuant to Article 8 of the zoning ordinance as requested for the proposed Westington apartment project, 102 units located on the south side of Waddles, east of Crooks, parcel 882021 101 004 005 and 008, section 21, zoned NN neighborhood node I district be granted subject to the applicant, I guess, doing the following. 1, address fire department requirements with regards to proposed emergency vehicle access EVA prior to final site plan approval.
Do we have a second on that? Mr. Tagle?
Yeah, I'll second.
Very good. The vote, Ms. Sarnicki?
Mr. Krent,
Yes.
Mr. Lambert,
Yes.
Mr. Rahman,
No.
Mr. Tagle,
Yes.
Mr. Aphidian,
Yes.
Ms. Cruz,
Yes.
Mr. Faison,
Yes.
Mr. Hudson.
Yes.
Motion carries, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. So good luck with your project, and we'll move on to the next item, which is Planning Commission meeting schedule. Mr. Savinot, you can take that one?
Yes, we have the proposed schedule before us this evening for 2021. Hopefully, as we move forward, we'll have more meetings in person in the new year. But this is before us this evening. We approve this, we can update the official schedule moving forward for 2021.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Go ahead.
Yeah, Mr. Savinot, I was looking at the schedule, and November 23rd, is that the same week as Thanksgiving?
Yes. Yes, it is.
That's what I was wondering. I thought we were trying to avoid that week. At least we did this year.
Mr. Chairman, you're not going to hurt anyone's feelings, I don't think, if you take that off the schedule. But
yeah, I think we should. Being that COVID hopefully will be in remission, and some families like to plan gatherings that last more than just one day. I would say we eliminate November 23rd. Thank you, Mr. Lambert.
then we would need a resolution to approve the proposed schedule with the revision that was mentioned.
Okay, would Mr. Lambert like to do that?
So moved.
Second, please.
I'll second.
Vote, Ms. Sarnicki?
Mr. Lambert,
Yes.
Mr. Rahman,
Yes.
Mr. Tagle,
Yes.
Mr. Aphidian,
Yes.
Ms. Cruz,
Yes.
Mr. Faison,
Yes.
Mr. Hudson,
Yes.
Mr. Krent.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Well, the only thing we have left is planning commission comment. Anyone like to offer their comments? So maybe I should just point them out. I'll start with Mr. Hudson.
Apropos the discussion we had with you, Mr. Krent, concerning the intent of nodes in this particular one. It shows the hazards. When we did this about 5 years ago, our planning didn't seem to look like we were going to have the problem we're having. And that is, just as you pointed out, in this particular node, we're going to have too many residential places there. And I, like you, thought that we would have amenities and conveniences for the residents in the area. So when we get around to revising the master plan, I think that we ought to take a real good look at the nodes again and maybe recast what we think should be.
Next would be John. Nothing? Okay. Mr. Rahman.
Yeah, I just want to add one thing. I know that we several times asked the question to ourselves that, is that approved by the zoning ordinance? I just want to make sure that we understand that Planning Commission is not Zoning Board of Appeals. So we make some decisions that's subjective, and that's with respect to multiple things where it's not very much defined in the zoning ordinance. And I hope, based on our decisions, we'll make changes to the zoning ordinance. I request, to have this on the record so that density is considered in the future, zoning ordinance with respect to neighborhood nodes. Because I feel like, I like to have an apartment complex here. I know that it gives diversity of, a diversity of needs, special needs, because there will be a ground floor opportunity, for elderly people. But at the same time, having like so many apartments in 3 family houses, literally 3 family houses, it's just too much. So I request, we have that considered when we look at the master plan and we take into account the same thing in the zoning ordinance. This is my request to planning department.
Thank you. Mr. Haphahadian.
Yes, I just have one quick comment and a follow-up question for Mr. Savidan. First comment is I just want to make a comment for the record. At least one of the public comments referred to us as elected officials and that we were elected to represent them. I just want to make sure that we set that record straight, that we're actually appointed, we're not elected. And then a follow-up question for Mr. Savidan. You mentioned that the master plan would probably not be modified for at least another year. And one of the comments that was brought up, or just in general, is the idea of you as a director, can you actually say no to projects as they are brought before you by developers, so you don't pass them on to us as a planning commission, so we don't have to wrestle with the idea of, does this fit in the neighborhood? Does this meet the requirements? Can you do that filtering up front for us, or is a process already set that developer actually submits the project and you just follow the process? What options do you have? So that's my question and comment.
Yeah. So there was a couple questions in there. The first one was about the timing of the master plan. Carlisle Workman provided a proposal that proposed beginning updating the master plan in February and ending the process in the fall. But that was at our request. That was quite an aggressive approach, and that factored in COVID and the limitations on meeting in person. And when we talked about that a little bit at Planning Commission, but we talked about it a little bit more at City Council. And it's my opinion, and Ben and other people agree that it's okay to have some remote input, but it's also important to engage the public in person if we can. So we talked about lengthening out that process to provide us with a wider range of engagement. It allows us to be more effective and more creative with that. So that it could take upwards of a year, if we extend the process to allow for that. So that's why I said that. regarding my abilities to approve or deny projects for new development applications and neighborhood nodes. It is the authority of the Planning Commission to review and approve those projects. And we do meet with applicants to try to get them to submit a project that meets all the criteria and is approvable. And we try to shepherd the project along so it's at a place where it's ready for consideration by the Planning Commission. But it's the Planning Commission's authority and role to review and approve these projects and provide feedback, and which is what you did. This project took numerous meetings, in part because you, as a body, provided really effective feedback that made the project better. The project is better this evening than it was 6 weeks ago when we last saw it. So have I answered your question, Mr. Apahidian? Thank you.
Mr. Lambert.
Okay.
Wait, just a minute, Dave. Do you want to follow up on that, Karen, or?
I just, want to make a couple of comments on some things that I've heard tonight. And the first to Mr. Rahmans, that, we are not the Zoning Board of Appeals, and that we do have discretion in making decisions. You are absolutely right. And let me assure you that the time that I spent sitting on the Zoning Board of Appeals as the Planning Commission representative was probably the most painful public service that I have ever done, because I was completely confined to the letter of the law and had no gray area. That being said, we do have discretion as a board, but not to the extent that we can disregard the law. We're not at the opposite end of the spectrum of the Zoning Board of Appeals. And while we sit here, and have very difficult meetings over these projects because, people in the area are not interested in seeing the change, that doesn't mean that we get to disregard the law or to take away property owners' rights to sell their land because we're in a tough spot or we have a master plan that perhaps doesn't look exactly like what we want it to look like. We're going to have to make decisions on a case-by-case basis with the facts that we have at hand and with the law and the ordinances to guide us. And where we can use discretion, but it has to be reasonable. You have to use a reasonable standard, not what you wish that it was, not what you want it to be, and not even necessarily what you believe it to be, but something that would withstand scrutiny in a court under a reasonable standard. And with that, I'm done.
Okay, Mr. Lambert.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just, I'm going to be kind of a broken record on this, but I'm going to ask Mr. Savidan and Ms. Dufresne probably will have an opinion too on the zoning text amendments that were passed out of our commission earlier this year and then went on to City Council. I know they haven't gone to City Council yet, and I was wondering, is the reason for that primarily, are you waiting until council is able to meet in person to bring those up, or is there some other reason why council hasn't had a chance to have a crack at those?
You want me to take that, Brent? So the short answer, Mr. Lambert, is there needs to be a decision made about how to conduct public hearings remotely. So you're mostly correct. It's City Council hasn't had their crack because we're not having public hearings at this point. That's going, in my humble opinion, that's going to have to change the longer we stay in this remote platform. But yeah, that's the short answer.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, that's it. Okay, Mr. Faison.
You have a question for Brent and Ben. It's maybe more of a process question. So, we're talking about the master plan because of the conversations we're having around a variety of things, but neighborhood nodes being the most recent topic. I know we were talking about the Big Beaver district. If you go back a number of months in the Rochester Road district, I guess my process question is this. Do we need to update the entire master plan kind of simultaneously? Or could we address some of the areas where we're having kind of these concerns and issues and these projects that maybe many feel are not consistent with what Troy wants today? Would we be able to have a process that allowed us to address some of those things earlier? And then it maybe is not, I know you just gave a representative number of 12 months, but maybe where we can address some of those things sooner rather than later. Is that a possible path to take?
So I'll answer this, and then Brent, you can jump in. It's certainly possible. The concern is, Mr. Faison, is by state statute, there's a very prescriptive process that we must follow, and it includes a lengthy review period. So even if we try to bite it off in chunks, it would probably take longer in the end to do it all completely than it would be if we did it just at one point. So with that being said, we are not looking at comprehensively redoing the whole master plan. You did that fairly recently, and we think it's in good shape. But we are going to pick and target specific areas that we think need to be addressed, and we're going to try to move as quick as we can. But there is just some there's both statutory limitations, but there's also this reality is we want to try to get input as comprehensively we can, and I think if we rush it, especially in these nodes, I think it's going to hurt us in the long run.
No, thanks for that. And no, we certainly need the input, right? So yeah, we can't rush that. And it also sounds like we are prioritizing the areas in the update. So, okay, thank you. That's all I had.
Okay. Ms. Dufresne, do you have anything to add?
I actually have a comment.
Great.
For those of you following along at home regarding the Eureka lawsuit, reminder that Eureka was the Sylvanwood project on Rochester Road north of Long Lake. They filed a conditional rezoning, which was ultimately rejected by City Council, and then they turned around and filed a rezoning application, which was also rejected by City Council. They sued in United States Federal District Court, and about 2 weeks ago, we got a favorable opinion granting the city's motion to dismiss that I filed back in February. So that was good news. The appeal period hasn't run yet. I will let you know if we get an appeal filed on behalf of the attorneys for Eureka.
Thank you. Mr. Savinot, anything extra?
Nothing to add. Thank you.
Ben?
Tom,
Is that Karen? You wanted to go ahead.
Yeah, I don't know if Ben has anything to add about Planning Commission. I have a question I'd like to ask, but it's unrelated to planning. So Ben, I don't want to step on your time if you have something to say.
I just
like
want to say this is the
haircut, by
last. Oh, thank you. Just wanted to say it's the last meeting of the year. Usually we go out and have a celebratory beverage afterwards. So I just want to say it's been a pleasure working for you and with you this year under very difficult circumstances, and I look forward to a different year in 2021. So thank you. It's been my pleasure working with you guys.
Right back at you.
Okay. Any other comments before we leave?
Yeah, I do. Like I said, I have an unrelated question, and it's to Julian and Brent, and I'm curious if there is anything going on in City Hall, any sort of a committee, a task force, even talk among City Hall staffers about the recent surge in crime going on in the city, not only at Somerset Mall, but in the Troy Meadows neighborhood north of me, and then at the Hilton Garden Inn. I mean, we're sitting here, being all, up in arms over a development at the corner of Crooks and Waddles, when I sit here and think to myself, if we don't get the crime situation, and a lot of that is really scary, under control, we're not going to be having planning project conversations because it'll dry up. So I'm just curious what's going on at City Hall to work with law enforcement or anything to address these issues.
Well, I can tell you that I am, unfortunately, I am not the person to ask about any task force or anything that's above my pay grade. Unfortunately, I can tell you anecdotally, I know that the police department is concerned about the uptick in crime that you're mentioning. Yeah, I think it's a valid point. I don't know if at the director level where Mr. Sabanat is, if he can provide some additional information. But yeah, I know it's a concern in the police department, but I don't know if there are any task forces.
Yeah, I cannot answer that. I don't know. I know that the city manager is appraised of all activity. He gets daily police reports and he's aware of what's going on. But I don't know what interactions that he's having with city council, or unfortunately, I can't answer your question.
Well, I know some people in Troy, not everyone in Troy. I would suggest that, based on personal conversations I've had around town, Pilates, tennis, places like that, I think that the people in Troy would like to know that their city government is aware of the situation, perhaps trying to be proactive about the situation. I mean, getting some sense that we're being proactive about the situation and not just getting to read about it in the paper.
I can speak to that. The police department is very proactive at Somerset, both on the north side and the south side.
I've been there recently. That I've seen.
Yeah, there's definitely proactive measures being taken at the police department level. Again, I'm not privy to that because I'm not at that level within the city.
Right.
But
right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just sharing. Next time, maybe you're at the water cooler, 2022 sometime.
Don't say that.
You might mention that some of the residents in the city are feeling a little uneasy, and maybe a little, proactive, positive press from people that sit high up would be good.
Anyone else? Well, if not, for those, of course, on the commission, and for those watching, and those that celebrate Christmas, I want to wish everyone a very merry and warm Christmas. Additionally, I want to wish everybody, not traditionally a happy new year, but a normal new year would be great for 2021. So with that, we're adjourned.